Now, look, what not many people know about you, Keir, is that you're very, very keen on football and you play football. You're an aspiring midfielder, is that right?
Aspiring, thank you. I think I'm at the other end.
Have you played a game this week?
I play every Sunday, which is fantastic. We had a staff game last Wednesday.
Oh, really?
Which was very good. But I think my inner aggression came out, sort of battering people out of the way, trying to get to the ball. But it was fantastic, yeah, with the staff team. Brilliant.
I'd love to see that. And, I mean, Gary, come on, you got any advice for an aspiring midfielder? What are his prospects for getting signed?
Everybody in the room who's ever played with me is thinking absolutely no chance.
Make sure you play left of centre midfield.
Yeah.
And you've got to deliver some nice passes to that left wing because they're a little bit noisy.
Yeah.
Very good.
Sorry.
And look, as someone who was previously had a very big career before you came into politics, I mean, what's your advice to Gary? Should he come into politics? I mean, or what's your advice to Gary as somebody who's had a...
I think that's being answered. Look, what I'd say, I mean, I came into politics quite late. I did other things. Obviously, I was a lawyer. I worked in Northern Ireland. I was the Director of Public Prosecutions. And I think coming in later in life gives you something which you don't necessarily have if you come in earlier, because it gives you huge experience, knowledge of how to resolve different situations. Also, out there in the world beyond the political bubble, most people see problems and their instinct is to go and fix it. And make things better, and we lose a bit of that in politics. So when you look at the experience you've got, captain, playing, bringing people together, that is an incredibly powerful thing to have in politics. It's what we need in our party sometimes, but not this conference. But it's what we need for the country. At the moment, I think the country feels very, very divided. We've seen the true colours of the Tories last Friday. Their absolute ideology came out. They're going to run the country on the basis that the only thing that matters is make the rich richer, and somehow one day some of that might trickle down to other people. So there's a really big divide here. There's a fight to be had, and you enjoy that competition. Just imagine that the Tories are, I don't know, Liverpool Football Club.
Who do you fear more?
I said that I got asked that question, actually. Would I Liverpool or the Conservative Party? And I actually chose Liverpool, which is saying something. Because whilst we see football differently, people in Liverpool work hard, they want a fair and equal future, they want opportunity and belief, and they are aligned with, I suppose, Mancunians and the rest of this country. I don't believe it's just a northern issue, this.
No, definitely.
No, it definitely isn't. It definitely isn't.
Now, just before we move on to some other politics, can we just have a moment on the Lionesses? Because what a summer that was. You went to a few games here.
Yeah. They were amazing, and for someone who in '96 was in Wembley singing, football's coming home and it didn't come home.
Sorry.
It was there again.
But I was playing, what a bit awkward.
Yeah, but it was... and then, again, we were trying to do that. And then this year, it was brought home by the Lionesses. It was absolutely amazing. And against Germany. Absolutely fantastic. But Vic, my wife here, and I went with our children to the semi-final in Sheffield. And it was an absolutely incredible atmosphere. The place was full. It was really brilliant. Brilliant football, brilliant determination. The team were playing like a team, really together. But what really struck me is our daughter is 11, and she's interested in football, but not that interested in football. And she was just bewitched by it. She was absolutely... I watched her face as she was watching them playing, particularly at the end when they had won and they were still on the pitch. And this was a young girl looking, and the sort of aspiration to do it was there in her. And that's, I think, the best thing is, that sense that this is a brilliant game played by the women. We need equal access, by the way. We've got to fight this fight for equal access for women, because the I just got to hold the trophies here. Have you seen it?
I've not seen it. No,
But-
I've never seen an international trophy.
Well, it's here, and I went, and they asked me to hold it. I thought, blimey, after they've won it and done all that hard work, I better not pick it up and drop it, sort of Tony Adams style. But it was absolutely amazing what they've done. But the legacy should not just be that in a cabinet somewhere. It's got to be young women having the chance, an equal chance, to play football.
I mean, when you think... The question gets asked sometimes, why should the men game fund the women's game? And many of you will be aware, many of you may not be aware, that in the 1920s, the men's game, the FA, stopped women playing football for 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why the men's game now, having set the women's game back so far, needs to invest heavily in the women's game. And there's a review at the moment. My mum was stopped playing in the 1970s for a school team. Really? Yeah. And my brother obviously was the manager of the England women's team for 4 years. My sister has fought for equal funding from Sport England for netball for many, many years. How can we be in 2020 still fighting for funding, for equal pay, for equal investment into women's sports? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope that's the... Let's hope that's the legacy.
Just before we leave football, I want to just say that, and you'll have done this, Gary, I went to Anfield just 2 or 3 months ago to go and look at the memorial to the 96, now of course 97. And it was incredibly moving, an incredible reminder of what happened that day. And I think inevitably, just because our children are the age they are, our boy is 14, he comes to football with me. And every time I went down the list, it's in rows, and saw, because the age is on it, the age 14, my heart just stopped. It's such a powerful memorial. And that's why we've got to change the law. And we will change the law to make sure that that never happens again. There must be justice for the 97, and we will do that as soon as we get into government.
A really important point here in Liverpool this week. And so talking of regulation in football, I know this is one of your favourite subjects as well, Gary. There's been some rumours this week that maybe now the government might backpedal on this idea of a statutory independent regulator in football. Tell us why it matters, and why you think that the Tories would be wrong to backpedal on that.
Well, they would be wrong. I mean, I'm surprised, I have to say, because I believe that it's a simple win for Liz Truss and her government. The last election, part of the Conservative manifesto, was that they would do a fan-led review. Tracy Crouch, a Conservative MP, has done a brilliant job with the panel in bringing that fan-led review forward with recommendations that I think are appropriate for the whole game. And it's got cross-party support. This isn't actually a Labour, Lib Dem, Conservative argument. Actually, everybody seems to be on the same page, because football clubs up and down the country are so important to the fabric of the communities around them. And I have to say, I'm unsure as to where those rumours emanated from last week. I don't know why you would even think to tinker with that, because the seats that are going to be fiercely contested in a couple of years in the general election, a lot of those towns that ultimately will be fought over have football clubs in them. And the EFL, the professional game, the semi-professional game, the supporters are all behind the implementation of a regulator. There is only the elite in the Premier League that aren't. It's a little bit of a representation of society. Vested interest and greed will try and control where the money goes. And the reality of it is, it shouldn't happen in society, and it shouldn't happen in football.
Yeah. And Keir, I mean, you always make a point of going to some of these football clubs when you go out on visits. We've seen what happened in Bury, in Derby, Wigan. I mean, what do you? You've not said much publicly on football regulation. What do you think?
No, whenever I go out on visits, I always try to go to the local football club, because the football club is very often the centre of the town, of the place, a source of great pride. And a lot of them are really struggling. I mean, Bury, now back up and running, but, Wigan, there's so many examples of football clubs that have struggled because of the finance, because of the lack of an independent regulator. But Gary's right. Tracy Crouch's report was accepted across the board. All political parties thought this was the right thing to do, independent regulator. The political will is there. So if this is introduced, it will go through. I am concerned now with the change of Prime Minister that it won't. Because I think her instinct, I may be wrong about this, but I think her instinct is that anything that looks like regulation, anything that looks like, in another part of the forest, taxation, is a bad thing, and therefore she will pull away from it. So I think it's now more at risk in the next 18 months or so till the next general election than it was before. But we will run with it. We will run with it, we'll push the government on it, because we need an independent regulator. And there is that consensus there. So I hope they push it forward, and if they do, we will support it, and it will go through, because it really matters. If it doesn't, we'll do it ourselves when we've booted them out of office.
Fantastic. That's a great commitment. And what more can fans do, can people in this audience do to kind of push that cause as well, do you think?
I think write to your local MP, really important. I think that would be the most important thing that you could do. And I think you'll actually get support from your local MP, whether you live in a Conservative, Lib Dem or Labour constituency. You will get support because they recognise it's the right thing to do.
Brilliant. Right. Now we're going to move on to a bit of politics. I know that one of the things that you two have bonded over the last few months was your, should we say diplomatically, dislike of Boris Johnson that you both mutually share. So what are you making of Liz Truss so far then, Gary? Tell us what you really think.
Look, the first thing to say is that obviously she has the seat, and it's really important that we all know what the end goal is here. When you have a winning team, you have aligned goals, and that means you've got to put your personal interests aside. You may not agree with every single current Labour policy. You may not even agree with certain aspects of what are going on, but you have to make sure that there is laser focus in this next 18 months, 2 years, to make sure that there is a change. This is a tired, failing government. It is. And when you have someone, either in a football club, in a business, or in a political party, that are in power for too long, you get this level of division, tiredness. They don't know, they can't see the wood for the trees. And in terms of Liz Truss, I mean, obviously she's only been in a couple of weeks. It's been an outstanding beginning, hasn't it? She's tanked the pound lower than my reputation in Liverpool. I mean, what worries me is, I know that there were the tax cuts last week. There was no high net worth, wealthy person on over £150,000 a year expecting, wanting a tax break last week, but they got it. And yet they did it. But that didn't really tell me the most about them. What worried me, not what worried me the most, but what told me the most about them was that last week, Kwasi Kwarteng, in his new house, went and knocked on Liz's door and said, what I think we should do this week in the midst of a cost of living crisis, energy crisis, people worried about paying their bills, people worried about food, I think we should remove the cap on bankers' bonuses. How can you possibly, in a million years, think that way? I think they're the only man and woman in this country that thought that would be a good idea last week. And we're still fresh in the mind from the banking crisis 15 years ago, and yet they still went and did it. And I have to say that there's this suggestion that, you know, Liz Truss is a woman who goes for what she really wants. But she was once a Liberal Democrat, and she was once a Remainer. She's now a Tory, and she's now a Brexiteer. And I got told last week that, we got told last week, I think it was maybe you that exposed it, Keir, that the reason that she didn't give the burden of the energy costs to the energy companies was because she once worked for Shell. I mean, on that particular point, I saw also that they froze the alcohol prices. I mean, do we assume that she once had a part-time gig at Bargain Booze or something? I mean, so from that point of view, I have to say that the time has come for them to leave office. It really has. The general election can't come sooner. And we can sit in here from whatever background you come from. We were brought up by our parents and our grandparents to know what right and wrong was, to know that you look after people, you treat people well, and they don't do that. They don't do that.
Okay, so you've got rid of Boris. You actually got rid of one Prime Minister. How are you going to get rid of, what's your approach to Liz Truss and getting rid of her?
Well, let's just enjoy for 1 minute that we have got rid of Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
You know, we spent many hours talking about Boris Johnson and why he needed to go. And so the moment he went, I mean, he did try and cling on. Do you remember that last day? Resignation's coming and he's putting a new cabinet together.
He's not gone
Even
yet.
more than...
He's
still hanging in the wings. But look,
Glued to the table.
he is gone. And now we have Liz Truss. I mean, he was all about character in the end. It was character that brought him down. She is all about ideology, about this ideology. And it's very simple. It is that the way you grow the economy, the way this country go forward, is about those at the top. That's why she thinks it's perfectly all right to get rid of the cap on bankers this winter, when they're struggling to pay their bills. What is the one thing that you're going to do to help me pay my bill? Take the cap off bankers' bonuses. I mean, really? And what they did last week, is this theory. And this is not just funny for an afternoon like this. This is really dangerous politics. The dangerous politics that really believes that the people who create the wealth in this country are only those at the very, very top. And therefore, if you make the rich richer and the super rich even richer than that, that is the way that you grow the country. It's proved not to work. It's immoral. It leaves out of account that those that actually grow our economy are those that do the hard graft day in, day out, those that go to work, those that drive the buses, those that drive the trucks. People working in factories, in hospitals, in shops, engineers, software engineers, school teachers, those who work in our hospitals. These are the people who actually build our economy, grow our economy, and they deserve to benefit from the growth in our economy. And the stark, the difference now between where they are, the top, only the top, and Labour, from the bottom up and the middle out, is so, so important. Although, as I say that does sound a bit like my Sunday football, I have to say.
That sounds good. Now, when you were preparing to do that Mirror interview yesterday, you asked me if you could swear, didn't you? Do you want to just explain this and then...
Well, yeah, ordinarily I would swear, it wouldn't be a problem for me, but I thought in a political audience, can I do that? And so I actually gave the line to the Mirror political editor. I said, they are taking the piss, this lot, aren't they? And then I thought, do you know... And then I thought, I'm not sure, can I say that? Can I change it to Mickey? Take the Mickey out of you? Not realising that actually Keir had already used taking the piss earlier on. I thought, I can't be diluting my language when Keir's actually gone even further. Yeah, so, it generally is true, though, isn't it? I mean, we get to a point now whereby if you're a nurse that's thinking of going on strike, then the accusation against you will be that you shouldn't go on strike because people will die because you're going to go on strike that day, not the fact that it's been underinvested in for 12 years, and that the fact that... When you think of the people that are working in education, in transport and nurses and in our NHS, do you think those people want to go on strike? It's their absolute last resort to have to do that. Or do we just accept that people are just going to continue to not look after the people who were clapped for 12 months during a pandemic, and now we're not going to give what would be the sort of, if you like, correct incremental pay rises to? So for me, I think we're in a society now which is quite dangerous because we have large parts of our media that also support the messages against our workers, against people who, to be fair, are trying to prop up our services, against this level of underinvestment that's occurred. We don't even talk about health and education anymore. We don't even talk about health and education anymore because they're off the agenda, because actually there is an element of this government that in some ways, these crises that have occurred, pinballing about from crisis to crisis, they quite, not saying that they enjoy them, but it gives them cover against the level of incompetence that's going on in the rest of the country.
I think on top of all that, they're now making a bad situation worse, because what they did on Friday was a massive gamble. It's like, sort of chasing a losing run. But they're not gambling their own money. They're gambling our money. And that, when the markets react in the way we've seen on Friday and then again today, this is not some abstract thing. This is investors who are investing huge amounts of money who think that what was said on Friday is really risky and it's affected their investment decision. This is for real. It's not just one of those funny graphs you look at, you think, well, I don't quite understand, but it looks as if it's going down pretty quickly. This is investors taking decisions that are going to have an impact. They're going to impact those nurses, those teachers, because this will mean mortgage rates going up, prices going up, making a bad situation even worse than it is. And that's why what was done on Friday was absolutely the wrong thing politically, but it's also the wrong thing economically. And let them never, ever claim again to be the party of sound finances. Never again. Never again. Try getting a funding proposal through Rachel Reeves. Her fiscal rules are absolutely like iron. And that's the 10th breach of a fiscal rule by them. And the other thing, let them never, ever claim again to be the party of aspiration, because they are choking the aspiration of millions of people in this country on the basis that they don't matter. It's only the people at the top.
So one thing people would see about you, Gary, is that you're a winner. You've been part of lots of winning teams. How do you think that we can ensure we win that next election and we change this country for the better? What would your advice to us all here today be?
I think remain laser focused and aligned behind the single goal, which is to remove this Conservative government and put everything else aside and focus on that alone. That alone. Get behind... Get behind Keir Starmer.
Absolutely.
He's a...
Right.
This is a serious politician, someone who's headed up a major department in the CPS, someone who is trustworthy and has integrity. All things that this current government don't have. And not only this current government damaging us in our country, our relationships with our partners in Europe and around the world are broken and shattered. And they've burned their bridges with our partners in Europe and around the world. And we need to rebuild our relationships. We need to rebuild our reputation, and that is not going to happen under a Conservative government.
Absolutely. And Keir, how confident are you feeling? Apprehensive, complacent? I know you're not complacent because you lecture us every week at the Shadow Cabinet, but how confident are you feeling about the general election?
Well, just picking up on Gary there, because he's talking about the international reputation. This is true in terms of, we used to be a respected voice internationally, and we're not anymore because of what this government has done. I think it goes even deeper than that, because I think what's happened in the last 12 years is that because they haven't delivered, because they've made promises that they didn't actually ever meet or arguably ever want to meet or intend to meet, there's been a loss of trust in politics, a loss of faith in politics, a sense that politics doesn't make a difference. We've got to restore that. We've got to give people the belief that politics is a force for good and make a change for them. And so there's a huge amount of repair work to be done. In terms of how we feel at this conference, and Gary, I'm glad you've come to this conference because there is a mood at every conference. You can feel it. And the mood at this conference is one of confidence that we've done hard work in the last 2 years to change our party to remake our party, to make it face the public, and that we're ready to deliver. And that sense that people are now looking to the Labour Party for the answers to the huge challenges that so many millions of people face. That is what's here at this conference, the sense of coming together, the sense that we are really a government in waiting, and that we now have our chance at this conference to set out our ideas for the country. That confidence is worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely. Very good. Okay. So just before we go, now the other thing that I know Keir really likes to talk about, Arsenal and a bit of football. Okay. Yeah. So
only a few voices there, I know.
Gary, what do you think at the top of the league, Arsenal's chances of winning the Premier League this season? What do you think?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I've been quite supportive so far, but that's where it ends, I think.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Arsenal are doing very well. I think I like Arteta a lot, actually. I thought at the end of last season when he didn't qualify for the Champions League, I thought that would be a real problem for him, but they responded well. And they're going to have a pretty good season, I think, but they won't win the league. City will win the league. Your lot will win the league.
Sorry.
Unfortunately.
But what would it mean to you, really, if Arsenal won the Premier League here? Come on.
Oh, it'd be absolutely fantastic. And no, we're top. We can still say we're top of the league at the moment. So we keep. But we've got, you know, it's a brilliant team. He's got really good new signings, I think.
Who's the best? Who's the best new signing?
Well, I mean, I'd say Saliba, but he's actually not a new signing. But it's his first season sort of on show for us. But he's been absolutely fantastic. Jesus is brilliant for us. Fantastic. So, you know, let's hope it's their season. I remember, you know, the best moment in football ever was here in Liverpool in '89 when Michael Thomas put that second goal in to win the league for Liverpool, for Arsenal. It's absolutely brilliant.
Right, we've got a couple of last quick questions. Favourite sporting moment of all time, Gary?
Mine or?
Yes, yours.
I will go with the treble in '99.
As you do.
Yeah. All the United fans. We might be in Liverpool, but there's plenty of United fans. And Keir, was yours that one
That's just brilliant, isn't it? What's it? The treble in '99.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, Gary. This is why we're so pleased to have you here. It's absolutely incredible. I remember last time we did this in Manchester and we were just about to go on and they read out all of your sporting achievements and it's absolutely incredible. And I think tribute to you for all of that. And I wish we could all sit up and say the treble in '99. Wouldn't it be so brilliant?
I know.
It's that Michael Thomas goal in the 92nd minute in Anfield here in '89. Absolutely brilliant. Ended an 18-year run for Arsenal. Absolutely brilliant.
Excellent. Right, last question, because we've all got to go. You've all got fringes to go to. This is.
What are these fringes?
Don't go.
Yeah.
What are these fringes people keep talking about?
Gary thought it was fringe as in bad on the fringe.
Are people sneaking away and snidey talking here? Like.
So I'm going to tee it up for you here now. Who do you think was England's best ever defender of all time?
No.
Well, Gary's right up there, but I've got to say Tony Adams.
Yeah. And who's your favourite ever politician of all time, Gary? No.
Look, I did mention you, Gary.
It will be Keir when he wins in a couple of years.
Right. That's it from us. You've all got fringes to go to, parties to go to. Don't have too late night. Can you all thank our guests? Can you thank Gary Neville and Keir Starmer?
Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy, thank you.
Oh, no, well done. You did really well.
Gosh, conference, what an afternoon, eh?